see what I bought here. I got a silk dark green, like a miniature green fabric. So my intention getting this fabric was to create a trouser and a shirt. I want a high waist trouser and a shirt, like men's silhouette type of shirt, very free and long, covering my bum, yeah, all the way down. So I already have a video on trouser, on how I made a trouser with elastic. So I'm thinking of making something totally different from the videos I have on YouTube. But I've seen like several inspiration on Pinterest. So I'm just gonna like look at the pictures and see what to decide on what to make. I already have a video on how to make a classic tailor trousers block and a video on a basic bodice block pattern. So I'm thinking of triggering those two block patterns to create the look I want, or start from scratch to create the look I want. So if I'm going to start from scratch to create the look I want, then it has to be a two-part video, the drafting and the sewing, because I'm also thinking of making something like a crop top, like a bralette or a corset, just to give that sexy look inside, because this look is going to be conservative, everywhere covered. So if you want to go out in the night, like styling for the night look, you can just wear the shirt as a jacket, and the inner part, like the bralette or the corset, will be revealing, you know, just give that sexy vibe. So this is an intro. I've not done anything yet. I'm just excited. I got this fabric. So let's see. And please like, share, and subscribe. So this is day 2. I haven't done anything, absolutely nothing. So I want to start drafting my patterns today. So for the pants, I have decided to go with the front wide leg pleated pants. And for the shirts, it's going to be man's lower shirts with the whole cuff and big sleeve and big shirt. So I'm going to start with my foundation block patterns, the 2 block patterns. That is the pants and the buttocks. So if you don't have these 2 block patterns, you should draft yours, and for the sleeve too, yeah. So you should draft yours. I have the video, so check that out. I recommend you draft yours before starting. So I'm just going to trace first, then tweak the pattern to get my pants and shirt and bralette. Hopefully I do bralette, because it all depends on the fabric, what is left of the fabric after cutting this out. But I'm just going to draft the pattern anyway.
I started by tracing out all my block patterns as a trouser block and the basic bodice block pattern. I marked out 5 inches before tracing out my front basic bodice block. This is for the band, but we'll come to that later when drafting the pattern. Next, I added more inches to my trousers length. I want this trouser to be long, so I made the total trousers length to be 43 inches. I want the trouser to kiss the floor just a little bit. Next, I extended the line from my hip point straight down to my trousers length. I also drew a straight line from the nail point down to my trousers length. I reduced my waist length by 1.5 inch. This will be my waistband. For my new waistline, I marked in 1.5 inches. That's from the outseam. I went in 1.5 inches, then I went down 6 inches. This is to create my pocket opening. After that, I connected the 2 points just to create that pocket opening slant. I first marked the size of the pocket 6 inches, but I later reduced it to 5 inches. So my pocket size is 5 inches for the width. This 5 inches is just to create the pocket shape, which I'm going to later trace out. I went down 9 inches for the depth of the pocket. Then I connected the points just to create my pocket shape. Next is to trace out the pocket shape on another pattern paper with a tracing wheel. I have done something like this in this video. You can check this out. After using my tracing wheel to trace out the pocket shape, I used a pen just to make the lines visible. After drawing out the line, I cut out the pocket shape. You don't have to trace out the pockets in one piece. You can trace it out in 2 pieces. To create my fly facing, on the new waistline, I went out in the inseam 2 inches and connected the points to the new waistline. And down on the hip line, I went out 2 inches and connected the point and created the curve down using my curve ruler. You can also trace out the fly on a different pattern paper. I drew a straight line using my dart as a guideline to create the pleat. You can see from the video that I didn't get the straight line at first, so I had to erase to ensure that I get a proper straight line. After all this, I cut out my pattern piece. Don't forget that you can use the waistband to create your waistband measurement by joining it together and tracing it out on different pattern paper, both the front and back. This is the front pant piece. It all depends on how full you want your pleat. You can just extend the space just to get the pleat you want. For the back pattern, I marked out my desired trouser length, which I did for the front. I also extended the hip line straight down to the trouser length and also the nail. So the next step was to mark out the 1.5 inch band out of the waist, and that's all. Just cut it out. To create the front shirt pattern, I reduced the neck to 1.5 inches and created a new neck curve. Before tracing out the block pattern, I left 5 inches. This 5 inches is for one side of the band, that is the buttonhole band, while 2.5 inches is for the button band. So let me say that again. The buttonhole band is 5 inches, while the button band is 2.5 inches. That's half of the mark. I marked my length. I extended my length to 28 inches. I want the dress to cover my bum. I want the shirt, sorry, to cover my bum. So I extended the length to 28 inches. I connected the 2.5 inches down to my dress length. I marked up the cut of my hip measurement on the dress length and added 1 inch, and I drew a line up to my armhole depth. I want the shirt to be really free, that is why I added 1 inch ease. To identify my back width, I drew a straight line from my shoulder up, just like so, down, yes, down, and I extended my back width by 1.5 inches because I want the shoulder to fall a bit on my hand. And with that, I marked my new shoulder slant, that is my new back width divided by 10, which is 2 inches. I marked my 2 inches and created my new shoulder slant. Next, I extended my bust measurement just to meet up with the ease line. Just to meet up with the ease line. I don't want any shape on the shirt. I just want it to be straight like a man's shirt. So I got the midpoint. This is just to create my new armhole curve. I got my armhole mid curve, then mark the 1 inch just to create the new armhole curve. I cut out my pattern once I'm done. For the back pattern, I adapted most of what I did for the front pattern. I increased the shirt length. I made it 28 inches. I added 1 inch to my hip measurement as my ease and connected that point up to my armhole depth. I extended my back width by 1.5 and created my armhole curve. Next is to create the sleeve. I want my sleeve length to be really long, 25 inches. So, and I also want a sleeve cuff, that's the band. So I just marked out 22 inches for my sleeve, while the remaining 3 inches will be for the sleeve cuff. I added 1/4 inch to my sleeve width. This is just to make the sleeve bigger, and after that I drew a straight line down because I want pleats on my sleeve. So I drew a straight line, just a straight line down, no shape, nothing. and I cut out my sleeve. For the bralette, I traced my basic bodice block pattern up to the waist. Next, I marked out my armhole depth line and marked my on the bust measurement, which is 13.5 inches. I drew a straight line connecting them. I got the midpoint of my shoulder and I marked out my bust distance, which is 4 inches. And I connected all those points. After that, next is to create my dart. I already have 1 inch dart allowance, so I will mark 3/8 inches on the first side, that's the center front. Then on the other side, I'm going to mark out 1/2 inch, so I have 1/4 inch, which I'm going to be adding to the waist later. So next is to get the midpoint of my armhole depth. The midpoint line indicates where the bralette will stop and the strap will continue. So I'm just going to create my dart on the midpoint line. On the first side, I marked 1 inch, while on the second side I marked 1/2 inch. I connected this dart to the armhole depth, while the waist dart to the armhole depth, just like so. On the dart side, I marked 1/8 inch and connected it down to my on the bust line. I also marked 1/8 inch. The 1/8 inch is where my strap would be. So I created like a curve. I didn't want it straight, so I just created like a curve using my curve ruler. Next, I shortened the waistline by 1/2 inch and connected that. I added the 1/4 inch, which added to the waist dart, and create my new waistline. Yeah. So I measured my strap. I like to measure my strap. So I measured my strap to know my strap and cut out my pattern pieces. Please don't forget to label your pattern. This is absolutely not necessary. I just did this just to show you how it looks. So for the back, I marked up my on the bust measurements and drew a straight line. I also took out the darts. I don't need the darts, so I took out the 1 inch darts. Next, I shortened my waist length and marked that out, and I also got my strap measurements. So that is all.